I'm Jammer, here today with my video review for Pokkén Tournament DX on Nintendo Switch. So, quick background about myself and fighting games before we even get started, just so you kind of know my perspective and where I'm coming from on all this. I really don't have that much of a rich background in fighting games. Really, outside of Smash, I haven't played more than a few hours in any other title. Well, of course, an exception to Shrek Super Slam. I mean, that was the game to have back then. Why is that not an esport? I mean, come on! So my point is, going into this game, I have kind of the perspective where I really haven't played that many traditional 2D fighting games like Street Fighter, Tekken, so this is kind of a new experience for me. That's why it kind of makes my perspective a little bit more unique on this game compared to those who come from a background of playing a lot of Street Fighter, or even for those who actually owned this game previously on the Wii U. I have to say, from those I have played, the combat in this game is super unique. Especially with the differences between field phase and dual phase is a very interesting concept. While in field phase, it's that 3D top-down like thing where it's really focused on positioning, using projectiles to hopefully catch your opponent off guard so then you can initiate some sort of combo to throw them into dual phase, hopefully then using your momentum and keeping that going through to execute a combo, because while you're in dual phase, that's where the game kind of shifts over to being more traditional 2D fighter where the buttons are executed to pull off certain combos and all that fun stuff. And if that wasn't enough to make this fighting game unique, they added even another layer on top of that, being the attack triangle. How it works is an attack will destroy someone's grab. So if they're going for a grab, the attack will buff the grab and then you'll be able to punch through it. The grab will trump the counter. Every character's got a counter that you can buff a few hits, take in the damage, and then execute it right back onto your opponent, then hopefully following that up with a combo. But if you're grabbed during the counter animation, that will be trumped immediately and a critical hit. Then of course, counters trump attacks, like I previously mentioned. So if you're getting attacked and you're holding that counter, you can buff some of the damage and then execute it back onto them and then follow up with your combo. This leads to a very interesting strategy, because I'm so used to in Smash Brothers where if there's an opening, you're gonna go for that grab because then you can string into a combo from there. But I kept having it to where I go for a grab and they'd just still be attacking anyways, or they could just punch out of it, you know? Then of course, the strategy of everyone having that counter ability makes it really unique, where you don't want to spam it too often because then it'll leave you more open to getting grabbed. But using it can be really effective, intentionally baiting your opponents to come at you and attack you and using that counter to shift the momentum of the battle into your favor so then you can start taking over the action. For example, while in field phase, your heavy attack converts to a homing attack where your character will rush into your opponent and start attacking them. And if you pull that off, you'll be able to push them right into dual phase. It's a very great way to get your opponent into that phase. However, if you see your opponent running at you, if you start just charging up your counter ability and they continue to pursue you, you'll easily be able to counter them attacking you and then take the advantage going into dual phase. The enemy's homing attack can actually be cancelled, and so that enemy can then choose to use a different move entirely, or even just change it and go into a grab and totally mess it up. So it's really interesting and it's complex, but I like it. Now, look, I realize that explanation was a lot to handle all at once. Basically, what I was trying to say is attack beats grabs, grabs beats counters, counter beats attacks. While in field phase, the objective is to hit your opponent into dual phase, and then in dual phase, that's where you pull off your combos to then hit and take down your opponent. Trust me, it makes a lot more sense when the game actually introduces it to you. There are plenty of tutorials and stuff to walk you through it all within the game. It makes sense, I promise. And if that wasn't enough, there is also support Pokemon, which essentially is just a set of 2 Pokemon that you can equip before you go into a battle, and they can like assist you during the fight, essentially. There'll be a little cooldown at the side of the screen, and it's dependent on which set of Pokemon you choose and how long the cooldown is. And the amount of time is dependent on how effective they are. So the ones that charge up slower will obviously be more effective. There's 3 types of support Pokemon: the attack, the buff, and the debuffs, each obviously with their own uses and abilities that can help either trap your opponent, combo into it with an attack, or the buff to help your attack increase so then you can take them down quicker. It's a super deep system if you really think about it, because the strategies and the counters to be able to use it there, it's well above what I can comprehend. But it's pretty fantastic to think that even the smallest decision of what support Pokemon you choose could dramatically affect how the battle plays out. One quick thing, hold on. Can we just point out how cool that freaking combo was real quick? I mean, like, am I good at this game? I don't know. Maybe I am. And speaking of strategies well beyond my comprehension is the stage layout. So they're all really spherical or oval stage types. So besides that, there's not much differentiation there at first glance anyways. The shape and the distance and the size of the arena actually does affect your Pokemon. For example, if Dual Phase is initiated really close to one of the bounding areas, perhaps you might not be able to pull off a combo you normally would have. And then on the opposite side of that spectrum, there's some combos that require the wall, and for you to knock your opponent into it, to then combo even more of your moves into, I don't know, it's insane! It's insane! These are obviously all tons of factors if you plan on going super competitive with the game. So if you're just looking to have a fun, casual time, obviously a lot of these factors won't necessarily matter. But I have to stress, on the side of competitive things, it is surprisingly super deep in how everything operates. It just blows my mind, it really does. So let's talk about the characters themselves, and I found that they all played super unique from one another. It really didn't impress me, because even characters that were similar enough, like Mewtwo, Shadow Mewtwo, as well as Pikachu and Pikachu Libre, they each have their own different type of playstyle. And I haven't even mentioned some of the other characters that are absolutely mind-blowing at how they implement them into this game. Suicune being on all four, Croagunk's crazy weird unorthodox playstyle, Gardevoir being all like upright, characters like Lucario and Machamp obviously make sense for a fighting game like this, Blaziken of course, right? But I mean, who would expect Gengar or Empoleon? Each character brings something to the table that's entirely different from the rest of the cast, and they all play super unique, none being like any of the others, which I really appreciate. Some other details that I thought were great were like the UI and the background elements. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I almost wish I could spend more time in these stages just to look around at the background elements, watch the Pokemon move about and stuff like that. And I really like the aesthetic of, all the menus and stuff. It's very sleek, it's well themed, it fits in well with the game. They have those little trainer portraits, that show off the fighter who you're about to fight. And speaking of which, there are tons of character customization. From battle, you can get money to then buy different clothing for your avatar to wear, as well as you can unlock it by just playing in the story mode or other various modes to just randomly unlock different articles of clothing and stuff for your character to wear. Another reward is after battles, you actually get skill points to then level up your Pokemon for those that you just fought with. You can upgrade their attack power, defense, how fast their synergy gauge builds up. I'm not sure how dramatic these actually affect your character. Perhaps they're rather minuscule, or maybe they build up more as you get closer to maxing out the level of that Pokemon. But it obviously won't be as noticeable in early game stuff, It's still another added layer of depth, but it just blows my mind. It really does. It's awesome. So before we move on to the cons, there's two other modes I want to quickly talk about before we get into that. The story mode. So it's actually, it's pretty simple. I obviously didn't really have too high of expectations going into it, considering, it's a fighting game. Fighting games don't usually have the most in-depth stories modes anyways. And even if they do, I never go into it expecting it. For a fighting game, the expectation is to have a fluid combat system that works, it's fun to play countless and countless times. The story mode's really just an added flavor, at least in my opinion. And it's basically what it is here. There's some world building that goes around with the whole synergy concept of training with your Pokemon, going up through the leagues, taking on other trainers, getting promotions to go up to the next league, as well as combating the threat of Shadow Mewtwo all the time. It's fun for what it is, definitely. It's obviously not the main draw of the game, nor should it be, but I still had a fun time with it. The other mode I want to talk about is the new 3v3 mode. So basically what you do is each trainer chooses 3 different Pokemon for their set, right? And essentially those are your stocks, those are your lives, so every time one of your Pokemon faint, you have to throw in one of your other 3. And what's really cool is the health actually carries over. So let's say I take down the opponent's Pokemon, but my guy's only at like 100 health now because he got my butt kicked. I go into the next match now, that Pokemon still only has 100 health, and I'm now facing one of their brand new fresh Pokemon that they had in the reserve tank. This is super cool, because it's like actual Pokemon. That's what blew my mind when I saw the connection there. I was like, what? That is so awesome. It kind of forces the player as well to get good at many characters, many different characters, instead of just solo-manning a specific character. Which is fine and good for a game like this, don't get me wrong, but I thought it was kind of fun, to experiment with a bunch of different cast of characters, especially when I was playing locally with this game. Since we're on the topic, let's kind of move into the cons that I had about this game. So here's the thing, I feel like if I really want to get confident in this game, I feel like I have to put some sort of long-term time investment into it to really master the mechanics, learn my character or whoever I'm playing in order to feel semi-confident at it, right? And that's kind of the thing for me. If I want to put a lot of time, or extra time for that matter, into any fighting game, I feel like it'd be more beneficial to me to put it into a game that I'm already somewhat good at, I guess that's part of the excitement of a new fighting game, getting used to the mechanics of the new fighting styles and all that fun stuff. But just for me, for as little time as I have, if I'm going to put any extra time into getting better or good at a fighting game, I'd almost rather do it and put it into Smash, which I already feel like I'm pretty confident at, you know? Part of the reason is also, I mean, if I'm going to invite anyone over to come play a fighting game with me, it's going to be Smash Brothers. I don't really see myself at any time in the future inviting someone over saying, hey, you want to come over and play some Pokken with me? This really shouldn't affect my overall position or thoughts on the game itself, because there's really no place to be making comparison to Smash here. So this part's not necessarily a con of the game or anything, but just my personal standpoint on if I wanted to get better at this game. I guess the point I'm trying to say is I don't feel the compelling reason to want to become good at this game. I think part of the reason of this might be for me, I found it a little bit difficult getting used to the fighting and how some of the characters controlled. The learning curve for each character, because each was unique and different from each other, was a little steep. So I just see the time investment in each character, if I wanted to get good at them, it'd be pretty high, you know what I mean? It's really hard to say this without like totally just dissing on the game, because I did still have a lot of fun, and like I said all at the beginning of this video, the combat is super unique. With the attack triangle, you know, the support Pokemon and the stage layouts, all that strategy, all that stuff can be put into it. The differences between field phase and dual phase and strategically positioning yourself to, you know, better your opponent. There's a lot of fun to be had. I think honestly, I'm just not the right demographic for the game. Like many kids growing up, I mean, I always had the dream or the idea for like, what if there was a fighting game with just Pokemon characters? And I think they did an awesome job implementing it here. It really does feel like you're playing out the anime sometimes, like where the battles are so much more dynamic and the attacks have such weight behind them. It is really fun, and I'm glad I now have a better understanding of how the combat goes, so now I can actually watch maybe some competitive gameplay, watch some tourney stuff, and actually understand what's going on this time. There's a lot that goes in this game, and there's a lot of fun to be had too, especially with the tons of different customization and collectibles you can get for your trainer. There really is a lot of content packed into this small fighting game. In the end, I liked this game a lot. It'll definitely be a game that I'll go back to and play periodically, but I don't see it becoming the replacement of my fighting game of choice. Not that it needs to be, of course. I will say though, this has actually been my favorite game to play in handheld mode. I played a lot of this on the go just because the time frame in between this review, trying to get as much gameplay as I could in, I was not home as often as you think I'd be. It surprised me how much I did love it in handheld mode, especially because you can take off both Joy-Cons and play two-player fighting on the go. Super awesome in that way. This is obviously the superior version between the Wii U version and this one because of the additional characters as well as the new modes and the ability to play it on the go, like I just said. So if you do have any interest, I do recommend checking it out. Or at least give it a chance playing the demo or something like that. The game does offer a lot of dojo and training tutorials to really help you learn each character's attack patterns, their combos, and all their abilities. It does a really great job teaching you the mechanics and to feel confident at the game. Maybe I'm not the right audience, but I still did have a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to give this video a big awesome like, and if you haven't already, definitely subscribe for tons more on other Nintendo Switch video reviews. I plan on doing some more Pokken content in the upcoming weeks. I do have a pretty funny one coming up soon of just some crazy replays I have from when I was playing as Mewtwo in this game. So definitely look forward to that. Anyways, definitely let me know your thoughts on this game in the comments below. I'm really interested to see what you guys will think about this game. Or for those who obviously had it on the Wii U and thinking about upgrading over to the deluxe version, definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya!